Welcome to another GRU interview. My name is Ryan with GRU, Gemaki Real Estate Wealth, where we help busy people grow their wealth and freedom through investment real estate. GRU interviews are designed to inspire and educate by sharing short profiles of Canadian real estate investors. In this episode, our guest is Andy Tran, who is a registered house and small buildings designer and founder of Suite Additions, a business focused on creating legal second suites and accessory dwelling units. Andy is passionate about sustainable infill development, and he works and invests primarily in the GTA. Here's Andy. Andy, how did you get started in real estate?
I started in 2006 in pre-construction condos downtown Toronto. I had no idea what I was doing at the time. I was actually partnered with some family members. And I think we were just lucky, really, right? I mean, sort of a rising tide raises all boats, and sort of we were in that situation. But yeah, I mean, condo investing, I think if the market's good, then you can take advantage of it. But there's just not a lot of ability to increase the value. You sort of are at the whim of the market. So that's how I got started. And then it wasn't until like 2010, around 10 years ago, that I actually got into single family home investing, where I really, applied the knowledge that I had at work, with regards to houses and renovations. And then just kind of continued, from there, doing single family home investing, as I mentioned, doing flips. And then lately, getting into more density and infill development, that sort of stuff in the last few years.
Okay, so what was it that originally attracted you to real estate? Looking at other investment options, why did you choose real estate?
I think that this is going to be the common answer for a lot of folks, is the leverage, the ability to, not actually have 100% of the investment required, right? So typically with investments, you have the 20% down, which allows you to leverage. And it just made sense for me to use real estate to transition into entrepreneurship, which is something that I've always wanted to do, but I always wanted to be very cautious about it and not say, I'm going to leave my job and jump right into it. I kind of wanted to transition into it cautiously. And I think real estate does allow people to do that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, totally. Build up some passive income on the side and then slowly rise it. So what's your main investment strategy or specialty now?
Right now, my specialty and strategy is really just looking at how I can increase the value of the property and increase the density of the property, right? So what I look at is most of the time, I look at detached houses with a large lot to see how I can add an additional second unit or potentially a third unit, and potentially even redevelop that land to, sever and build properties later as well. There is kind of a window of time that we have right now where we can still acquire properties with, small houses on them with a large lot that we can develop, because anything that was constructed, say in the past 30, 40 years, they've been on relatively small lots with a larger house. Mm-hmm. And there's an opportunity now for that strategy to kind of densify.
Yeah. Wow. What's the best deal you've ever done in the 14 years you've been investing? What's been one of your best?
Yeah, the best is probably the last one I did with my partner, Charles. So we went in and we purchased property. And so we just basically combined our resources. He was a developer out in Ancaster and Hamilton area, and he's done a lot of development, and I focused on densification. So we just sort of formed this business partnership and said we're going to buy a lot. It just so happens the lot right next to it was also on sale. We were able to convert one of the units to a duplex, and then also sever the property and build an additional 2 single-family houses with second suites. So we essentially turned 3 units. Actually, sorry, the first one was already a duplex. So we turned 3 units into 8 units, and that really it made a lot of sense. Just because we added the density, we were able to get that cash flow.
Wow, that's amazing. What city was that in? I missed it.
That's in St. Catharines.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And so are all those units rented now? Is the project complete?
Yeah, those units are all rented. So all 7 units are rented to individual families and professional couples as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And what's been your worst real estate mistake and how did you recover?
Wow, there's too many. Um, I a lot of people, when I started in 2010, the really big strategy was rent to own, and um, I also started doing rent to own for single family homes, and I think it's still a great strategy. It just didn't work for me. I couldn't find the right people, and maybe it was a timing issue. But I would say that obviously that's not a mistake, is doing the rent to own, but I think it's rushing to get tenants into your property.
Mm,
For a lot of folks that are starting out investing in real estate, it's such a capital intensive investment that if you have vacant for several months, you start getting desperate. And
yeah.
a lot of the folks that are interested in the rent to own, they have bruised credit, or they may be in circumstances where they may have trouble renting or buying. So you have to be very careful.
Hmm.
So in my particular case, I was actually I just found the wrong people, and it was just months of chasing for rent and going to the landlord tenant board. Yeah, that sort of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, that's tough. That's good advice though, to be patient in placing a tenant because really that's when the landlord gives over control of the property, at least in Ontario.
100%. Yeah.
What have been some of your primary sources of real estate info? You mentioned that when you started in '06, you bought a condo, and then in 2010, you changed your strategy based on a lot of the learning that you had been doing. How were you learning? What was your education process?
Uh, there was really, I mean, two main sources. Really, it was being part of good networks, right? Good real estate investment networks. So being around the people who were already doing it, getting a lot of tips, strategies, tactics that they were using. And then the other thing really was from my background in architectural design and houses, and then learning about the densification opportunities. So really just going online, looking at various websites. I would say, yeah, I mean, there's a ton of information out there. You just have to kind of find what suits you and what you're doing. And it's important to not consume too much information, because you end up being in a situation where you have analysis paralysis, right? So focus on what it is you want to do that fits within your lifestyle, and then hone in on that. And then of course I would say definitely be part of some network, right? Because that positivity and encouragement is very important, especially when you're starting out.
Yeah, that's good. And what role, you mentioned, you did your best deal was with a partner. What role have joint ventures or partnerships really played in your investing career?
It's relatively new for me. I only started doing joint ventures probably about 3 years ago,
Okay.
and yeah, I think it's great. If you have some experience, you have something that you can bring to the table, whether that's management expertise, being able to find the deals, or if you're busy and you just have that extra capital, right? You really have to see where your strengths come in to the partnership to make it worthwhile for both parties, or if there's more than two parties. Um, yeah, I think that's really good, because at some point everybody's going to reach a limit in terms of what they can invest it with their own resources, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's it. So in addition to, you mentioned avoiding analysis paralysis, what other advice would you give to people that are wanting to invest in real estate, but they haven't made the leap yet? They're aspiring real estate investors.
Yeah, that's a great question. I would say start with looking at your own situation and how you can maximize uh, the value of your particular scenario, because it really depends on where they're coming from, right? So a Canadian real estate investor could be, a young person that's just starting out, may not have real estate, but they might have a job that they can start, getting into it. Or it may be somebody who has had a successful career in a field, nothing to do with real estate at all. They're both going to be in different situations, right? So for the former, for somebody who's, let's say, starting out, I would say, if you already have a home, that's great. See if you can maximize the value of your home, right? Add an additional unit, rent it out, save money, save equity, and then invest in the next project. And if you can't get into the market, I would recommend combining resources with someone, whether it's a family member or friend. Purchase in a market that's still affordable. There's still many affordable markets in Ontario, across Canada, and really focus on adding value. Learning about adding additional units, things like that, and adding value to it with that additional unit that you can get rent from.
That's great. That's good.
Yeah.
What about for more seasoned real estate investors, people who maybe have done a couple deals, but they've sort of leveled out and haven't made much progress lately in their investing? Any advice you'd offer?
Yeah, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and and it comes back down to densification. That's sort of the name of the game right now. It seems like it. Whether you're starting out, you're a more seasoned real estate investors. Where can you add more value to the property? We're just kind of in this perfect storm of obviously high real estate prices, immigration, housing affordability, and housing crisis. So if you can add more units and be able to create more housing for individuals, you're gonna benefit. And this is something that is encouraged by various levels of government as well, right? So kind of the wind's at your back if that's what you want to do. So yeah, even for more seasoned real estate investors, that's what I would recommend. Now you can combine them with different other strategies. You can still do rent to own. You can do short-term, long-term, depending on the rules in your city. But that's the same advice I would offer for more seasoned investors.
Yeah, that's great. That's good. So Andy, tell us, how can people get in touch with you, learn more about your business?
Sure. You can just go to my website. It's right there on the banner there, www.suiteadditions.com. I have a couple of guides there just to, get people started understanding, what's the process for, adding additional units, and then looking at, at the bigger picture and seeing what the opportunities are, with all that's happening in our cities as well. So yeah, just go to the website, suiteadditions.com, and that's where you can learn more about me and my business.
Yeah, that's great. And I recommend people to jump onto Andy's email list. He sends out articles, little blogs from time to time with amazing, solid information, particularly about densifying and adding those units. So make sure you're getting that info from Andy. Andy, thanks so much for your time. This has been it's been great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Okay. All right. Thanks to Andy for being part of this GRU interview. Let me share my key takeaways. The first is to focus on maximizing the property through densification. Adding a basement suite, accessory dwelling unit, severing the lot. These are strategies that can provide huge benefits to both cash flow and return on investment. And the second one is to be part of a network, especially when you're starting out. It's key to be part of a community that knows what they're doing and takes action. I'm working with Andy's company, Suite Additions, to legalize a duplex I own in Hamilton, and I found him super professional and knowledgeable. Andy's website is listed in the video description, and be sure to jump on his email list. I've learned a ton through the content that he shares. Okay, Canada, thanks for watching and happy investing.